Welcome to Underworld UK, where Britain's darkest stories are brought to light. From the gritty streets of gangland London, Liverpool, Manchester and Birmingham, from Curtis Warren to the Cray twins to county lines and modern-day true crime, we cover everything. Bringing you new videos every week. Subscribe so that you'll be notified when the next video is put out. He was once a missing teenager. By age 23, he had built a £20 million drug empire stretching across Europe. Arrested in Ibiza. Britain's youngest ever so-called gang boss, Eddie Burton, ran rings around law enforcement. This is the shocking story of drugs, deception, and an empire built in the shadows. Most gang bosses earn their reputation after years in the game, but Eddie Burton had the streets talking by the time he was just 16. In this episode of Underworld UK, we're diving into the shocking rise of one of Britain's youngest and most dangerous gangland figures. Meet Eddie Burton, a baby-faced enigma who bypassed the cliches of gangland notoriety. No violence, no gold chains, no brash Instagram displays, just cold strategy, silent logistics, and encrypted phones. His was a criminal operation that played like a high-level corporate machine, with a cleanliness and discipline rarely seen in the underworld. Eddie Burton didn't go out in a blaze. He simply slipped off the radar. No dramatic headlines, no manhunts. While his classmates stayed on the straight and narrow, Burton vanished, only to resurface quietly across the European narco corridors, from the back streets of Amsterdam to the warehouses of Spain, and all the way to the freight depots of Dover. At the core of his empire was one unifying principle: never get caught with the product. He didn't carry it, didn't touch it, didn't flaunt it. Instead, he operated through layers of encrypted communication, clean couriers, and a deep understanding of how to blend business discipline with criminal precision. His use of EncroChat and PGP encrypted phones shielded communications from law enforcement, while fleets of couriers moved loads of cocaine, heroin and ketamine through legitimate freight logistics channels. To customs and border authorities, it was just another shipment, until it wasn't. There was no flashy lifestyle, no scenes of partying with bottles and models. Eddie's moves were ghost-like precise, data-driven, and cold. His strategy was built on invisibility, trust, and a corporate-style detachment from the violence that often defines Britain's Class A drug economy. Eddie Burton's story isn't about gangland glamour. It's about the new face of crime, discreet, networked, and businesslike. In a post-EncroChat world, it's a cautionary tale, one that redefines what a modern kingpin looks like. There's a lesson in this for both criminals and Old Bill. For criminals, that invisibility is only temporary. For law enforcement, that surveillance is now digital, not just physical. Burton, originally from Walton, Liverpool. A normal childhood until 2016-17, when he vanished twice. First just before Christmas, 2016, then again in February 2017, sparking missing person appeals. The teenager who went missing from home twice went on to become a drug boss in charge of a £20 million enterprise with his girlfriend. Eddie Burton's multi-million pound enterprise, which he worked on with the help of his ex-partner CM Banks, came crashing down when he was arrested at Ibiza nightclub Pasha while using an alias in August 2023. But years before he was living in Europe and organising shipments of drugs to be delivered in the UK, the smirking criminal was a baby-faced teen who went missing from home on 2 occasions. The Echo reported how Burton disappeared just days before Christmas in the year 2016, with what appears to be a mugshot shared in connection with the appeal. At the beginning of February 2017, another appeal was published by the ECHO, appealing for information to help find the Walton teen who had been missing for close to 3 weeks. His grandmother told the Mail Online this week, "He was a bit of a young tearaway. I think he was selling drugs. So it's not that surprising what's happened to him. Apparently some older men got him to sell things when he was young." Described as a baby-faced teen, schoolmates recall a rebellious streak, even in middle school, setting the stage for later criminal activity. While the only confirmed early record is his disappearance, interviews hint at petty crime involvement before he fled Britain. But those who knew Burton as a child, including his own grandmother, told us they were unsurprised that he would end up in organised crime. Family and friends in Liverpool said Burton had been a tearaway from a very young age and was engaged in serious crime before he had even left primary school. One family friend, speaking on condition of anonymity, told Mail Online, "He got into all sorts when he was a kid. He started selling a few drugs when he was about 10 for older drug dealers. Eddie was a runner for them. He was a real baby face, so it was ideal for them as he just didn't look old enough to be into drugs. He got into trouble quite a bit when he was a young teenager in fights and things. He was just a bit cheeky when he was that young, but it gradually got more serious." Remarkably, Burton's paternal grandmother, Margaret Burton, corroborated this version of events. She said, "He was a bit of a young tearaway. I think he was selling drugs, so it's not that surprising what's happened to him. Apparently some older men got him to sell things when he was young." By her own admission, Mrs. Burton hadn't seen her drug criminal grandson for some time, and when she last did, the occasion was far from comfortable. She said, "He's my son's son, but he and Eddie's mum split up a long time ago. I haven't seen him for years." Speaking from her home near Liverpool FC's old training ground, Mrs. Burton went on, "I used to mind him as a baby. I don't really know him now though. I'd heard he'd been to other countries and was into drugs and things. The last time I saw him was when he came to my house when he was aged 18. It was like a stranger coming to my house with 2 of his mates. I couldn't wait for him to go, really." His grandmother said she only found out Burton's role as a drugs mastermind was when his father showed her a news article about his conviction earlier this week. She said, "My son phoned me up and told me about it. It was a bit of a shock as it is also huge, and also because I haven't seen him for years. Merseyside police issued a photo of Burton looking like a fresh-faced choir boy when he was 15, after he had been reported missing. Soon he would be permanently missing, and at 19 he would move to Amsterdam. By this time he is thought to have been dating Banks, who was 2 years his senior. The pair are thought to have met in their native Liverpool, and Banks was soon smitten, both with her new boyfriend and the money. The choice of Amsterdam as a base was an obvious one for Burton. It has for years been linked to smuggling gangs, and was the base for Liverpool's most notorious drugs runner, Curtis Warren, a generation before Burton came along. Banks, meanwhile, was seen as an obvious girlfriend for an aspiring gangster. A woman who knew her growing up told us, "She's a stunning girl and always looked good. She took great care over her appearance and was a good time girl who liked men who had money." Pictures on Banks's social media accounts seem to confirm this glamorous lifestyle. One post showed her posing on a yacht aboard with friends, as well as several of her in bikini tops during nights out. Another former associate of Banks told us, "She liked foreign holidays, and she liked a big night out. Shin's into nightclubs, and I know she's been to a few festivals like Creamfields. I know she's been away for quite a few holidays abroad. But it was still a big shock when we found out she's been up to this much no good. The couple are thought to have split up after Burton's arrest, and it's not known whether they have fallen out as they both face prison. Details of the pair's huge drug plot were revealed after Banks pleaded guilty to assisting his criminal enterprise at Canterbury Crown Court this week. 2 lorries containing heroin, cocaine and ketamine were intercepted at the port in Dover, Kent, in the summer of 2022. The drugs seized weighed a massive 307 kilos, with an estimated street value of £20 million. Border Force officers stopped the first lorry on the 3rd of July and found 90 kilos of ketamine and 50 kilos of cocaine packed into boxes and a Lidl shopping bag. The second lorry, intercepted on the 12th of August, contained 142 kilos of cocaine and 25 kilos of heroin hidden inside a modified fuel tank. Burton's fingerprints and DNA were found by forensics officers on both drug consignments and the concealed fuel tank. The lorry's 64-year-old driver was arrested at the scene. Latvian national Maris Fridvalds was jailed for 14 years in March 2023 for his role as the courier in the attempted importation. The National Crime Agency NCA then launched a manhunt for Burton. A year after the authorities launched their manhunt, Burton was arrested at Ibiza's Pasha nightclub in August 2023 for unrelated drug dealing offences while using an alias. After being extradited to Germany and charged with drug-related crimes, Burton was returned to the UK in March 2024 by the NCA's Joint International Crime Centre, JICC. Burton subsequently pleaded guilty to 4 charges of importing Class A and B drugs. His ex-lover Banks, also from Liverpool, was arrested in December 2023. It was discovered that she would make monthly trips to see Burton in Spain and the Netherlands between June 2022 and October 2023 from her home in Liverpool. A review of her phone also showed that she had smuggled drugs into the UK in her luggage on 2 separate occasions in August 2022 after visiting Burton in Amsterdam. After his second disappearance, Eddie's name faded from public attention, but behind the scenes, things were moving fast. He slipped out of the UK, how still unclear, and by 2020 he was operating in mainland Europe, Spain, the Netherlands, Belgium, Ibiza. By the age of just 20, Burton had re-emerged, not as a missing teen, but as a rising figure in Europe's multi-billion-pound cocaine trade. According to Spanish and British investigators, Burton's network focused on importing cocaine into the UK and Ireland, using encrypted apps, couriers and offshore accounts. Burton ran a team of drug mules who moved kilos of high-grade cocaine through airports and shipping ports. Authorities say he controlled drug movements from Spain to Ireland via Liverpool, disguised in food packages and hidden compartments in vehicles. This wasn't small-scale street dealing. This was organised, strategic and lucrative. In public, he lived like a young playboy, holiday villas, fast cars and luxury trips. But behind the scenes, Burton was the youngest ever British national believed to be controlling an international drug ring. Sources close to law enforcement suggest Burton was linked to Spanish-based British crime groups operating on the Costa del Sol and Balearic Islands. He used fake passports, aliases and burner phones to evade tracking. At one point, he even posed as a tourist renting apartments in Ibiza while managing shipments via encrypted apps like EncroChat and Signal. He was clever, elusive, and far too young to be on anyone's radar at first. But it couldn't last forever. In 2023, after a months-long surveillance operation by the Spanish Guardia Civil, Eddie got lifted. He didn't resist. In fact, he acted like it was nothing. Calm, smiling for the cameras. At just 23 years old, the boy who once vanished from a Liverpool estate had become Britain's youngest alleged gangland boss. He was taken into custody and extradited back to the UK under a European arrest warrant. From teenager to international criminal in just 5 years. Burton had gone from missing person to headline-making kingpin. But what was next? Would he talk? Would he walk? The legal system was about to get its chance to catch up with Britain's youngest underworld boss. But Burton told a judge he lied in a letter claiming that he had been coerced into a plot that saw him load £20 million worth of drugs onto lorries bound for the UK seasoned drug supplier Eddie Burton, who has convictions dating back to when he was 15, vacuum-packed over 300 kilograms of Class A and B drugs while holed up in an Amsterdam flat. The 23-year-old, who fled to Europe after he was charged in respect of the Jack and Mack county line, was said to have become involved in the trafficking plot to pay off a debt to someone referred to in messages as Chog. However, his offending, which saw him vacuum pack the drugs in an Amsterdam flat, didn't go unrewarded, with him reportedly earning between £20,000 to £30,000 a month for his role in the high-level plot. Burton involved his partner Cian Banks, 25, in his offending. Seduced by her love for Burton and the love of the lifestyle she was living, she not only helped package ketamine for one of the lorries, but also smuggled the Class B drug and cocaine in her luggage through Liverpool John Lennon Airport. Both Burton and Banks appeared before Canterbury Crown Court on February 12th to be sentenced for their roles in the drug trafficking scheme. However, shortly before the prosecution was due to open the case, a letter from Burton was handed to Judge Simon Taylor KC, in which the baby-faced drug dealer claimed he had been ordered to go abroad to pay off a debt. The court heard that Burton wrote, "There were things I could have done differently, but threats against life were made towards my family." After reading the letter, the judge said, "There are threats of modern slavery going through the letter. If the defendant maintains that, we need to think what we want to do with it. It's not as simple as simply abandoning it." Following a brief adjournment, Burton's counsel Notu Hoon said his client's position was that despite the modern slavery claims, he did not wish to change his pleas. Mr. Hoon said his client maintained he was coerced, but not to the remit of modern slavery. Judge Taylor said the claims would present a different basis of plea, a written statement explaining why someone pleads guilty to a crime, suggesting a lesser role in the plot. However, Mr. Hoon told the court that his client did not want to be cross-examined on the evidence because of his refusal to give any other names. Paul Valder, prosecuting, told the court that it was the Crown's current case that Burton was being paid a substantial amount of money but was beholden to others paying off a debt. Mr. Valder added, "He is an important cog in a bigger wheel." Both Judge Taylor and Mr. Hoon said they were both uncomfortable to move ahead with the sentencing until a new basis of plea had been submitted. However, after taking instruction from his client, Mr. Hoon said Burton requests that he wishes to be sentenced on the full facts, but Judge Taylor said, "I'm not prepared to take that risk. It's a lot for a young man to deal with." In response, Burton said loudly, "I'm ready to be sentenced. I lied in the letter." The judge adjourned sentencing Burton until next month, by which time a new basis of plea can be presented to the court. Before he was taken back to the cells, Burton said, "It's going to be the same outcome regardless." Following discussions with Banks's legal counsel Richard Furlong, who said his client should be sentenced on the basis that she believed her boyfriend was trafficking drugs purely for profit, Judge Taylor agreed to deal with her case. Opening the case, Mr. Valder said, "This case is about drug smuggling and drug supply. Those drugs being cocaine, heroin and ketamine. These defendants, Eddie Burton and Cian Banks, are or were partners. They are both from Liverpool. Eddie Burton is a convicted drug supplier and he has now pleaded guilty to being a drug smuggler. The defendant Cian Banks was linked forensically to one of those importations, her DNA being on the packaging surrounding some of the drugs. It is evident from her phone and other sources that she was a regular traveller between Liverpool and Holland or Spain to be with Burton. It is also evident from her phone that on 2 occasions she smuggled cocaine and or ketamine back to the UK in her luggage on behalf of Burton to pass on to others, albeit there is no indication about how much those consignments were. She allowed her bank accounts to receive money to support Burton while he was on the run in Europe. On a separate charge, she also provided forged COVID-19 passes to facilitate the travel of others between the UK and mainland Europe. The court heard that, while in Europe, Burton was arrested for illicit trafficking in narcotics on March 29, 2022, while en route to a music festival. He later moved to Spain, where Banks visited him on a number of occasions. On May 31st of the same year, Burton told his partner that he was in a car en route to Amsterdam, where he was going to get a vacuum packing machine to package drugs. Mr. Valder said, "There is a clear inference he was going to be put into a flat and vacuum packing drugs for onward supply." He added messages showed that Banks knew full well what Burton was talking about when he referred to vacuum packing tops, a slang term for cocaine. The flat was later identified as in the north of Amsterdam, with the pair's dog Marley staying at the flat. The court heard Banks visited the flat between June 17th and 20th, 2022, with Burton saying in a message the following day that he was going to be busy with 135 bits. The court heard her reaction of "wowzer," suggested she knew exactly what he was referring to. Banks visited her partner again between June 24th and June 26th, and a few days later, the lorry laden with cocaine and ketamine began its journey. Messages between Banks and her friend referenced that he was involved in the drug plot because he needed to pay Chog back. She also observed that what she earned legitimately in a year, Burton earned in a month. On July 3rd, Border Force officers stopped the lorry at the Dover Freight Lanes border and found boxes and a carrier containing 50 kilograms of cocaine and 90 kilograms of ketamine, with a street value of over 6.5 million. Forensic examinations were carried out, and Burton's DNA was found on a packet containing white powder marked Jota K1. The court heard messages showed that the drugs were smuggled for or on behalf of someone called Jota. 2 days later, Burton told Banks the lorry had been stopped, with the latter panicking that her fingerprints would be on the bags. The court heard Burton reassured her that, because she had never been arrested, her fingerprints won't be on file. He, however, had reason to be concerned, but believed his fingerprints wouldn't be identified because he had been wearing gloves. Messages in the following days showed Banks asking her boyfriend for money, complaining that she worked all week only to run out of money by the weekend, while he earns enough in 10 minutes to last 3 months. The court heard that she visited Amsterdam again between August 5th and August 9th, at which time a second lorry left Poland en route for Dover. This time, Border Force officers found an adapted fuel tank which had a hatch which when opened contained packages containing 142 kilograms of cocaine and 25 kilograms of heroin. The drugs were valued as around £12 million street value. Fingerprints and DNA analysis resulted in multiple matches to Burton. Analysis of Banks's bank accounts revealed nearly £43,000 in unexplained credits in the years 2022 and 2023. Mr. Valder told the court that it is clear from the accounts that Banks received third-party deposits into her accounts which were diverted to Burton to sustain him while he was on the run. Banks was arrested at her home on December 19, 2023, at that stage on suspicion of assisting an offender and money laundering. A search of her home revealed a letter written by Burton and sent from Alicante prison from the previous month, making reference to the ongoing process at the time of extraditing him from Spanish custody to Germany. He was eventually handed a suspended sentence for drug possession in respect of his arrest at the Germany-Austria border, before he was returned to the UK by NCA extradition officers. By the time he was returned, Banks had been arrested again, this time on suspicion of importing Class A and B drugs and fraud. She was later charged with 6 offences, including importing Class A drugs and money laundering. She eventually pleaded to the offences before her on the first day of her trial. Today, Eddie Burton sits in a prison cell, serving one of the most high-profile sentences ever handed to someone his age. Some say he was just a front, a clever, bold figure used by older criminals as a shield. Others claim he was the real deal, a prodigy of crime who rose too far, too fast. Whatever the truth is, Eddie Burton became a symbol of ambition, power, and the dark underworld that still thrives in the shadows of British streets. Eddie Burton may be behind bars now, but somewhere out there, another teenager is disappearing. Another empire is being built in the shadows. And the cycle continues.